This was a huge module, but we covered a lot of ground here and you learned a lot about the query editor in Power BI Desktop. Let me quickly summarize what we learned. Because we of course learned how to connect Power BI Desktop to source files. We also learned how to work on rows and columns. We saw how we can delete columns, delete rows, how to work on these, lots of things to tailor our dataset. We also learned how we can apply filters, how to change the format, and how to handle errors. Besides that, we had a look at appending and merging queries. This means we learned how we can add rows to an existing query or how we can add column to existing or new queries. We also had a look at pivoting and unpivoting. With that, we were able to significantly change the structure of our project and also to reduce our column count. We also learned how we can split columns and how we can extract values, and we saw different application areas for both of these options. We also had a look at data schemas in general and specifically at the star schema. We created our own star schema in this module, and besides the different tools Power BI Desktop offers to create such schemas, we also saw how these schemas help us to keep our information structured and how to keep the overview of the data we have. We also learned how to use query duplicates and references and what the difference between these two options is. We learned how we can work with indexes. Generally, we saw how we can work with IDs, so with unique numbers, which allow us to identify a specific value in a specific table. And we also saw how we can create an own index with a default feature integrated into Power BI Desktop. We also learned how we can enter data manually, because besides the connection to the source file, we can also create data in Power BI Desktop itself. Also a nice feature which can be quite helpful in your own projects. We got started with creating new columns already when we worked with indexes, but you also learned how you can use conditional columns to specify what a specific field should contain depending on the condition in another column. And we had a look at very basic mathematical operations. So we saw, for example, how to multiply the values in a column. And finally, we had a look at project organization in general, for example, by using our groups, and we had a look at performance optimization. Because as you saw, Power BI Desktop is a very powerful tool, but it has some loading times in the query editor, which can be a bit cumbersome. But with the performance optimization, we learned why this is the case and why this is not the case anymore if we structure our project correctly and if we then continue with the work in our data model. Talking about the data model, this is exactly how we will continue in the next module now.